Do you ever get mistaken for Dumbledore?
Not very often. Usually it's Gandalf, actually.
Oh, that's not too bad. I mean, Gandalf's
Except, you know, the expectations are a bit high.
Fair enough. Do you ever get mistaken for Father Christmas?
Only in December.
Yeah, easy mistake. I get that all the time. Yeah. What is your favourite book of the Bible?
Two favourites, I think. The Gospel of John, in a big way, and probably Paul's second letter to Corinth.
Is there any particular reason?
Yep. Gospel of John, because you never get to the end of it. I mean, you get to the end of it, then you start again. And you find all the things you didn't notice first time round. And second letter to the Corinthians, because it's all about how difficult it is to be an apostle and a disciple. And I'm getting a lot of feedback on this.
Maybe it's a sign. I'm sure it's not.
But it's second letter to the Corinthians is about how you fail with style, I think. And that's something I guess archbishops need to know about. Because you're bound to fail, especially you fail with style.
Fail with style. What should this person do with a £10 note they've just found on the floor?
£10 note they found on the floor. First of all, they ask if anybody's lost it. And if nobody comes through with it, take it to the Oxfam shop.
Oxfam, or Christian Aid.
Christian Aid, whatever.
Right, yeah, good.
Tier Fund.
Tier Fund, all of them, they're all good. So has anyone lost a £10 note? All of you, I bet. Right, let's go to Christian Aid then, brilliant. Who's better, you or the Pope?
Well, I think we might have to take a sort of telephone poll on that, mightn't we? Better at what, though?
Better at what?
Better
That
at
is
what?
the answer. Better
And he's better at being Pope.
Indeed. You're a pretty good Archbishop.
But I am better at being a father to my family. On account of I have children and he doesn't.
Doesn't, absolutely. If you could have 5, or we've got not got much time, so let's say 2 guests at your imaginary dinner party, who would they be?
Oh. Do they need to be alive?
No?
Right. Not Michael Jackson. No, I think wouldn't mind Nelson Mandela. And I'm afraid probably William Shakespeare would be the other one.
Interesting conversations. What keeps you awake at night?
Okay. 3 things. First of all is the sirens of the ambulances going to the hospital across the road. It's serious. Second thing is ordinary worries about family. And the third thing is wondering whether I'm quite as complete a disaster as Archbishop of Canterbury as a lot of people think. But the third one is not quite as bad as the others, on account of this failing with style business.
Absolutely, you're going to do it well. What do you think about President Obama?
Good news, seriously good news. I mean, for one thing, it's amazingly good news that an African American can be in that position. And I was really, really moved when a little kid in the school that my son used to go to, who's from a minority ethnic group, wrote a letter in the school magazine to President Obama saying, you know, if you can do it, I can do it. And I think that's wonderful. But also, he's a man who seems to speak honestly about how difficult things are. He doesn't, you know, he doesn't avoid questions. He's got real hope. He understands, I think, why faith matters. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Good news. Good news.
You're a fan.
I'm a fan.
Absolutely. Do you enjoy your job?
Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays. Sometimes.
What are the best bits of it?
Best bits are visiting communities in Kent and being in ordinary parish churches on Sunday mornings.
Brilliant.
Visiting schools and meeting people there. And sometimes, because if you're Archbishop of Canterbury, one of the great things is you can invite almost anybody you like to come to a party at Lambeth Palace.
Wow.
And we do this from time to time. So we've had Michael Palin and Bill Oddie and we've had Anne Widdecombe, that's another story, and we've had Richard Dawkins to a party as another pastor. So that's good.
Can I come?
Yeah, it's all right.
Thank you.
Wrong but fine.
Can I bring this one with me? Yeah. Should we go to Lambeth Palace? I've heard it here, but I knew that's on camera somewhere. Do you think it's important to go to church, and why?
There was a Christian writer hundreds of years ago who said, a Christian on their own isn't really a Christian. You can't do it yourself. You need people around doing the same thing, looking in the same direction, sharing the same problems, and so you need people around you. Going to church is connecting with other people who've got the same issues. And a church is good, it's working, when it allows you to share your issues, your problems. And a church is not doing its job when you're so embarrassed that you can't share what's really on your mind. So, say you've got problems, and we all have problems about saying our prayers. What's it mean? Is it worth doing? Or problems about reading the Bible. It's not making sense to me. How do I cope with that? Well, you know, here are all these people. Share it with them. Learn from each other. That's the great thing. So although church can sometimes, they tell me, be a bit boring, it's worth hanging in there because there are people around. And the church is the people.
Do you think that, because at the moment we hear a lot on the news and maybe even from our friends that fewer and fewer people are going to church and the church is dying out in this country, does that mean that the church isn't doing its job properly?
I think the church could be doing quite a bit more to do its job properly. It's patchy. You know, there are parts where it's doing brilliantly, there are parts where it's doing dreadfully. And I'm a bit suspicious always of big generalizations in the newspapers. But what we need to do, I guess, and it's down to you as well as me, it's show that human beings who live with the Christian faith actually have more humanity, more hope, more joy, more excitement in their lives than other people do. Can we show people that? Because that's the key thing. And at the moment, the answer is we don't always do it. But it can be done, and I guess probably most of you wouldn't be here if you hadn't experienced that somewhere along the line.